Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show, coming on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live, so you can download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. And can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today. And one of the cosmic spirits on this journey after nearly 4,000 radio and Facebook Live interviews is a cat named Dave Garland, one of the most brilliant multi-instrumentalists and humblest cats of all time. And a few months ago, I got an email from my guest today saying that he enjoyed the interview that I did with Dave probably, 3 years ago. And he collaborated quite a bit with Garland in the California, basking in the California regions of Afro-Cuban and Native American and Afro-Cuban and funk music of that time, and then just a lot of straight ahead, backup of singers as well. And it's just really a high honor to continue on this voyage. Butch Rillera, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I wanted you to talk about the first time that you saw cats like Elvin Jones or Philly Joe Jones, and specifically what they were doing as it related to, the bass drum. They weren't playing four on the floor. They weren't. It wasn't like in today's music with rock music where you have huge amplification and it's just pulsating bass drums. I wanted you to talk. I wanted you to just talk about in general some of the shaman jazz drummers that you had a chance to see, and how it affected your playing on the kit.
Well, I grew up idolizing guys like Max Roach and Art Blakey. Max because of his technique, and Art Blakey because of his rawness. And I got to see all of those drummers in person. As a matter of fact, I saw Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers when I was appearing in San Francisco, and we went across the street to a jazz club called the Black Hawk, and Art Blakey was there with the Jazz Messengers, and they were sold out, and so they put a table up, and they put it right next to Art Blakey's floor tom, and I got to sit and watch. I should play the whole night. It was incredible, just incredible.
Who were you with at that time? Who were you playing with?
The Ricer Brothers.
So you were, and what kind of club were you playing at?
It was a club owned by a guy, I forget his name, but he used to have a club in Beverly Hills, and he opened one up in San Francisco and said, I want you guys to play. So the Ricer Brothers said, yeah, no problem. So we went and played his club. Mr. D's, I think it was called. Joe DiCarlo was his name. He had a club in Beverly Hills. I believe it was called the Candy Store. Something like that.
It's still operational today?
No. That was back in the late 60s.
What I'm trying to get at is this whole idea of the organic language of melodic improvisation. I don't like using labels in music, but that language that Blakey and Roach and Philly Joe, and I'm 40 years old, so I missed the greatest era of potentially American music of all time. And you actually lived through it, and I just want you to talk about the conversation. I mean, what was it about those cats that allowed you to develop vocabulary on the drum kit, allowed you to not just keep time, but also play melodically?
Well, that's like I said, I really loved Max Roach's technique, and I loved Art's rawness, and I took from both of them. And Art Blakey, his style allowed me to be free and express myself. So in that sense, that's why he was one of my all-time idols. I just loved the way he played. And Max Roach, like I said, he just was Mr. Technique. and he just played great. I just loved the way he played.
Well, can you go a little bit deeper for the layperson about how Blakey liberated you, how he made you more free?
Well, he always one of his famous quotes was he loved playing with the young guys because it made him young. And he would just play with no abandon. He would just go for it. And I said, man, this is so cool. I want to play like that. That's the way I want to play. And so he had a heavy influence on me.
But you weren't exactly able to take that into the formula trip of the Righteous Brothers. I mean,
Oh, no. Well, only in the sense that I had the freedom to do what I wanted to do within their structure. But I had pretty much free reign to do whatever I wanted, and that's one of the reasons why they liked the way I played, because I interpreted it my way, and they liked the way I interpreted it. So that was it.
What town did you grow up in California?
Santa Ana.
So I'm just curious. Did you I've done a couple interviews with the great drummer from War, Harold Brown, and Howard Scott, who was the guitar player, and they used to play at a place called the Paper Doll, and cats like Deacon Jones, the football player, would come in. He was singing, and they were backing him up. I mean, basically playing R&B and stuff like that.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about where you were able to get comfortable on the bandstand as it related to playing R&B, and 6 night a week gigs that may or may not have helped you been discovered by big time acts like the Righteous Brothers?
Well, my older brothers, had a band back in the 50s, the first R&B Latin band from Orange County. And
what was the name of it? What was the name of the band?
Rhythm Rockers.
Wow.
And they used to play all the car clubs and Mexican weddings, and they would rehearse in our living room every week. And so it was natural for me to just go on stage and not be nervous or intimidated by any of that. It just came naturally. And so I remember one time, I always wanted to play with them. So at the time I was taking trumpet. So my sister was married to the lead trumpet players. Bill King was his name. And he wrote a fourth trumpet part for me one time. And I got to play with the band. I played fourth trumpet. It was cool. So I never got nervous.
You're right. I guess, more to the point, I mean, you were playing, can you talk about some of the clubs you play at that had unamplified, the sound systems were a train wreck. So when did your ears grow most on the bandstand?
Use what on the bandstand?
When did your ears grow the most on the bandstand?
Oh, geez, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I played so many clubs, it's hard to remember back then. You're talking about over 40 years ago.
No, I dig, but I'm just saying, in today's world, you have these perfect sound systems, state-of-the-art sound systems. You were playing out of PA systems back then. I mean, you had to really listen. So I'm trying to figure out when your ears grew the most.
Oh, yeah. The sound systems back then weren't all like they are today. I mean, it was like the speaker was maybe a 12-inch speaker.
Right. But you had to
play to that down to that the volume. So in a way that was good because you learned dynamics, and that's what's missing with a lot of the groups today. They just don't play with dynamics.
You're 100% right. Popular music, which was very palatable when you were coming of age, had dynamics. Today there are no dynamics. Can you point to
none whatsoever? From
a drummer's point of view, can you talk about how the dynamics of live improvisational music lends itself to pulse and tension and release. Tension and release is the most magical part of music. And if there's no dynamics, you're not going to have any tension and release. Can you talk about it?
No, you got to have dynamics, and you got to know how to build so that you would, like when I started out, it was like you played so that they could hear, and you played so that you were backing up the vocalist, and you let him do his thing. Then when it came to the solo, whoever soloed, then you would play a little louder and then come down again when the vocalist came back in. And like I said, that's what's missing today. You just don't build. None of the groups build. And it's all in how loud you can play.
And yeah, I mean, how did we get to that point? Is what I'm saying. I mean, is it merely a technological thing, or is it just or really was it the advent? I actually do want to ask you a question because a dear friend of mine, I've done 5 interviews with him, a couple of Facebook Live interviews, is with Billy Cobham, and Billy is
Billy's great.
He's the best, and he's such a beautiful human being on top of that. And I, I've never really, and I don't even know if he'd agree with me, but I just think that when that kind of Weather Report, Mahavishnu, Return to Forever, even though those guys, Lenny White and Billy and Eric Gravatt and those guys, they were like full on, post bop jazzers, like smokers. The music started to get sonically much louder. And to me, it's only gotten louder since then. And that's what I see. I see a lot of bands that play music that they'll start off at the decibel of 10, and it never changes. It stays right at 10. I mean, can you talk about maybe a band that you were in after being with the Righteous Brothers that, did you ever go full bore into, jazz rock fusion music?
Not really. I mean, in a way, Redbone was kind of a hybrid rock jazz, and which is why they enjoyed my playing so much, because I could play both. But I never really played it. When I started out, I played in a jazz trio, but there's a lot of dynamics required in that.
Well, let's go back to that. Who was in the trio? And I want to know exactly what this was about.
Oh man, I don't remember. It was just piano, bass, and drums. And
okay.
A little beatnik coffee house in Santa Ana called Occam's Razor.
Occam's Razor?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a beat. Wait. So I'm just trying to get the idea because because that was going on, and I don't want to get away from that. But then in Orange, it was similar. I interviewed the bass player Jim Fielder, great bass player. He wound up doing something similar. This was all around. What was it? About 65? What year would you put this at? This beat stuff, late 50s, early 60s?
Yeah, early 60s.
Because, at that point, Dylan hadn't really plugged in yet. Tim Buckley was doing hootenannies. But these beat clubs. So, I mean, what was that vibe like? And who would come in and check you guys out? I mean, you were playing. They were gigs. I mean, you were getting paid.
Yeah. Actually, Occam's Razor was my first paid gig. And what was funny is that it was close to my house. And so, because I was so young, I had to carry my drums piece by piece to the gig. But they back then, like in those coffee houses, they really enjoyed just soft jazz music, and that's what we played. So I learned a lot about jazz and dynamics to that.
What I mean, this is so very important, Butch, because what we have today is, you don't have the ability for, kids to go in the 9th grade to play gigs. You used to be able to do that. In some cases, you would be on the bandstand at a very, very young age. but of course you got this incredible education. Now you're basically, it's turned into this sort of assembly line kind of thing where you learn in academia, and the homogenization of sound is very evident because the students are either sounding exactly like their teachers, or it just they're just copying what they're learning about as opposed to just getting comfortable with their own sound. So what did you learn jazz wise on the bandstand? I mean, you weren't sight reading, I don't assume. I mean, you were probably. Could you talk about the nuanced jazz quality?
Yeah, well, it was all just based on feel. There was no reading involved at all. It was like everyone knew the songs or were familiar with the songs, and the piano player sometimes would use what they called a fake book, and he would call out the song. And unfortunately, we all knew what song he was talking about, so we would play it. But it was like, there was no reading involved. It was just like you just felt it, and you went with it. And like I said, that's where all the dynamics came in.
And was it bebop? What was it? Because at that time you had
it was straight ahead jazz.
It was just straight ahead. It was straight ahead. Did you have
Davis, that kind of stuff?
You right before it got into the modal stuff. Before culture, Love Supreme and that kind of stuff.
Of course, yeah. Back then when I was growing up, I mean, guitar players and bass players were playing through like one small speaker, 10 or 12-inch speaker, and then everyone started building bigger amps, bigger speakers, and everyone got louder. And now, if you're going even to a club now, they mic the drums. And it's like, man, what the hell? This is loud.
It's not It's not. In a lot of ways, it's not danceable music.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's just noise. A lot of bands are just noise.
I mean, in truth, there's a lot of brilliant, beautiful, organic cats, but if somebody's going to put a 10-inch speaker in front of them or an amp, they're going to take, or a 20 or 30, they're going to take the bigger one, the output. Output is king. But I want you to talk very specifically about, if you could talk about somebody who really, maybe it was your brothers, or just give an example of a time when somebody basically said, listen, Butch, it's really not about, you don't want to be a mess up there, but it is not about technique. It is about feel. This is not about chops. This is about making the music feel good. Is there a point?
Exactly.
Is there a point in your career? Do you have a mentor that sort of tried to drill that into you, especially when you were younger and maybe cockier?
No, not really. Well, fortunately, I had my oldest brother used to make he and my sister were really into jazz, so they would always buy these jazz albums. And I grew up, I'm self-taught, and I grew up playing along with all those jazz records. So, I learned a lot through that. But as far as technique and stuff, it's all what I felt. I never studied, so I couldn't speak on that.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, what did you learn the most being a street scholar?
What did I learn the most?
What I'm saying is, like, being able to find your own individual sound,
Right.
You could beg, borrow, and steal, and learn from those masters like Roach and Blakey. But how did you learn to incorporate? When did you start to find your own individual sound on the kit?
Oh, I must have been about 13, 14 when I started to develop my own thing. But it was based on listening to all these different guys, and I just took from all of them and made it my own.
How would you describe your own?
It's all in what you feel. It's like I just played what I felt, And what I had learned, actually, when I listened to those guys play, I always listen to the guys that move me. Their playing moved me. And I said, I want to be able to do that one day. And that's how it all came about. I just developed my own style based off of that. So that when I played, I knew I could move people if I played a certain way. And that's what I tried to do.
Talking to Butch Rillera here on the Jake Feinberg Show. It's a high honor. When did you first cross paths with the wily Dave Garland?
Dave and I used to, he used to be in a surf band where the leader of the band took the name from my brother's band, the Rhythm Rockers. And so I was in a rival surf band called the Trademarks, and we used to do gigs opposite each other, and we respected each other's playing a lot. And that's how I first met Dave, when he played sax in that surf band, the Rhythm Rockers. And then he and I became good friends. And then when I would perform or started forming my own bands, a couple of them I asked him to join, and he played sax and piano for me. Great player, great player.
So was he playing like, I mean, I'm listening to like stuff like, nobody even recognizes this stuff, but it's like Oakland funk was not Sly Stone. It was guys like Jimmy McCracklin, right? I mean, these like badasses like doing R&B. What was surf? What was the surf music of that time? And what was the horn playing like? Was it Bill Haley kind of horn playing? Was it Louis Prima? What was Garland blowing like in those days?
No, he had his own unique style. He would just play. Again, he played, and it would just move you because it was so emotional when he played, and he was just a great player. I don't know how else to put it except that his playing moved you. Everything he did, piano or sax.
Was he one of those? I mean, was it fair to say that he could honestly play in all styles of music?
Oh, sure.
And so, what was the band like that you guys put together that was different than the Rhythm Rockers?
Ours was more of a R&B funk kind of thing, and Dave fit right in.
And so, I mean, like that word funk was not in the musical lexicon at that time. You know, people might say,
well, no, it was, but amongst musicians, it was like used a lot. You know, hey, that band's really funky. Even jazz musicians would say each other played funky.
They'd say let's play a funky blues or something like that, but they wouldn't. That it wasn't like let's play some funk. That terminology.
No.
So
no, that didn't come about until like groups like Sly and the Family Stone.
Absolutely, no. Tower of Power, that kind of. It was like funk, exactly. or Herbie Hancock. That was later. So, I mean, were you getting off on Dyke and the Blazers and Hank Ballard and the Midnighters? I'm just trying to figure out like.
Dyke I didn't care for, but Hank I loved all of their songs and music.
What was it? Because again, you're talking to basically somebody who was, not birthed at that time. I mean, I was birthed during the disco era, and I'm trying to get the idea. What Ballard was it? Was it the raunchy lyrics? I mean, because dude, the truth is this. I mean, maybe did you see Ballard? Because when Gadsden, I've interviewed Gadsden a bunch, and when he was
the truth is, I never saw him when he had the hits. But I used to manage the clubs owned by the Righteous Brothers called the Hops, and I booked Hank Ballard one time, and oh man, he was fucking great, just great. He sang his butt off.
Oh man, wait, hold on, wait. What year? What year? So this was like was this after?
It had to be early 70s.
Please break down what that scene. What was that? That must have been greasy, man. He was cooking with grease.
Oh man, He was great. He was great. I had him, and you know who else was good was Gary U.S. Bonds.
Yeah, he
They were
gets left
both
out a
key.
lot of the time. That's unbelievable. But I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but I mean, like, would you and Garland just for fun kind of do, I woke up this morning. I'm like, boy, I hope Butch and Garland were doing, Elvin and Coltrane just doing horn drums back and forth, during the sets. I mean, to me, that was like, I mean, literally McCoy and Jimmy Garrison would stop playing and either leave the stage or just stay there, and Elvin and John would go at it for 40 minutes. I mean, people
That's
like.
true. I saw Coltrane at Sheldon's Manhole one time back in the '60s, and Alvin was his drummer, and Coltrane took a solo, had to have been a half-hour long solo, and he walked outside playing, and he came back in playing, and I said, "Man, this is great."
Wait, hold on. He
And then
walked
Alvin
out the
took a
door. He
solo,
walked
and
out the.
everyone left, and it was just Alvin doing his solo. He was. A
This is
beast,
so
man.
ridiculous. I want to make sure I get this story straight. Train's in the middle. He actually walks out the door of the club into the street.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Kept playing.
And he kept playing, and then Elvin was cranking. But did the rest of the cast, were they still on the stage, or did they actually leave the stage?
No, they were still on stage when Coltrane soloed. But when Coltrane came back in, they all left the stage, and Alvin took his drum solo.
Oh my God! What were you thinking at that time? I mean, what was in your mind? I mean, because like guys like Densmore, arguably were at that show, or he was watching, and they'd go home and try to run and copy that stuff, and of course they couldn't do it. But I mean,
Right.
I mean, what was the most emboldening thing? Just the bravado, the stage presence. I mean, clearly,
All of it. Alvin had so much chops, and he had to know exactly what he had. And man, it was animalistic. Is all I can say. It was so raw.
I agree. It's the most badass. I mean, it's just. I mean, but did you and Garland do your own version of that? I have to believe that you guys must have been having a ball. Because I mean, when I see Garland playing with like Bobby Weir, it just makes me smile because I hear he's such a beautiful player. And the point is this: Kenny Barron, the masters of this music, they would go see Coltrane play with Elvin in Philly, and the thing, it's not just the length of the solo or how long it is. It's that they never repeated the same ideas ever. Garland never repeated it. When I listen to him play piano or horn, he never repeated any ideas, so you could really stretch out. That to me,
Exactly.
and that speaks to. Can you talk a little bit about, did you guys? I mean, I know that, you weren't, you were playing in more formulaic settings, so you could sing for your supper with the Righteous Brothers and stuff. But did you try to learn songs in every key? And because what used to happen was like, guys would go over to Jackie Byard's house at Berkeley School of Music. This was really how, first of all, there were professors there like Alan Dawson who would just give gigs to their students, which is completely unheard of because there just aren't that many gigs anymore. But on top of that, Jackie Byard was a great drummer, so he'd have piano players come over and sit at the piano, and he'd say, let's play Cherokee in every key. And so this one
Right.
piano player I interviewed, he's like, when I in D, I fell apart, and at that point, it was literally 10 minutes into the lesson, and Jackie's like, okay, well, now we know what we need to work on for next week. I'll see you next week. It's like, did you get to that point where because that helped a lot of people unlock their ears, and you were kind of an autodidact. I mean, did you guys start to dabble in that kind of stuff?
I didn't, but Dave did because he could play in any key, and we had my cousin who was a bass player. He would everyone hated working with him because he would always do all these songs, but he would do them with all these odd keys, but he would do it purposely just to test everybody. And Dave, oh man, I hate working with him, but I learned a lot because I had to force myself to play in different keys with all these sharps and flats. I said, oh, okay, cool.
Well, no, that's
But as far as drums, no.
well, no. I want to know, how did that help you as a drummer, though, or just as a musician to have to play every song in every key?
It didn't really make any difference as far as drumming is concerned. When I started playing piano again, then it made a big difference. But as far as I could care less when I played drums, I could care less what key it was in. It didn't make any difference to me.
What was the instrumentation of the band? I'm sorry, tell me the name of the band you and Garland had.
I had a band called Bim Bam. It was 13 pieces with I think 5 horns
Bim
and
Bam.
3 background singers.
Holy cow! I mean, what?
And Dave was on piano, and I was up front with my cousin Tony from Redbone.
Oh my God! So can you? What's the genesis behind the title? The title of the band.
Okay, well, I had all my bands I named after drum beats. My first band was called Fatback, and that was named after the Fatback drum beat. And then Bim Bam is what the people in a New Orleans funeral, when they walk back and the music goes, when they walk to bury the person, it's a dirge. When they come back, they play happy music, and there's a second line. The people it's like, I think there's 4 lines, and the people in the second line would play tambourines and stuff, and what they played was called the Bim Bam beat, and that's when they named the group after Bim Bam.
Oh, that is so. I mean, that's a large band. I mean, that
yeah.
was there.
It was hard to find work.
Yeah, where did you play? I mean, where were you down in Southern California? I mean, did you wind up playing?
Fortunately, I was doing a duo with the guitar player, and he said, if you could, on one of our breaks, he said, if you could have a dream band, what would it be? And so I named all these guys, and it was like 13 guys. She says, well, I'll tell you what, if you could put it together, I'll do the charts. So I called the local union. Every year they have what they call a bash, and they feature all these different groups and different styles of music. So I said, well, is there a chance I can bring in my big band for one night and just do it? And they said, sure, it's fine. And as it turned out, as we were playing, the entertainment writer from the local newspaper was there, and he wrote us up. He called me. He said, man, I've been getting all these letters and things people wanted to see you. Is there a chance we can see you anywhere? I said, oh, man, let me check around and see. Well, at the time, Bill Medley of the Righteous Brothers owned his own club. So I said, is there a chance I can bring the band in and we'll play? He said, I can't afford that. I said, well, that's cool, but we'll play for the door. Can you just bring us in so all these people can come see us? He said, yeah, if you don't mind playing for a door, I'll bring you in on a Sunday afternoon. And we played, and it got so popular, he moved us to Monday nights after Monday Night Football, and the place was packed every Monday night with lines to get in. It was great.
What was the name of the club?
Medley's.
What was it called?
Medley's.
How do you spell?
Like Bill Medley, Medley.
Oh, Medleys.
Yeah.
So what did that writer describe your music as?
Jazz, Latin, rock, R&B.
was that's pretty much all of them. What year was it? It's six. I mean, and was it like? What year was it? And were you guys? I mean, because like, you had, that amazing sort of confluence of Afro-Cuban music. Were you plugged in? Was it acoustic?
No, it was all plugged in. I had a percussionist who used to be, he's Cuban. He used to play with Dave Mason. And I fired him and hired another guy, Kurt Rasmussen, and wow, it was like night and day. It was like, whoa, this is cool. Because he had everything. He played everything, timbales, you name it.
Wow.
It was great.
Is he still around?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dude, he was
As a
playing
matter of fact,
timbali? Dude, you were down there with, the Rene Touzette show, and you had all those crazy parties going down there, and
yeah.
Willie Bobo and Mongo was there. I mean, you were marinating in that stuff. But
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Kurt, my old percussionist, is working here. He's in the house band of Cirque du Soleil at the O Show. He's been with them like 5 or 6 years now.
but in some casino somewhere.
No, it's the Bellagio on the Strip.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys have a chance to tour at all?
No, no.
So you were local.
Our biggest gig was when Disneyland called me and asked us to play Easter week. And I said, because I worked for 1960 I started at Disneyland, and I quit in 66 to go on the road with the Rice Brothers. And our band leader, who was also the entertainment director at Disneyland, called me up and he said, would you guys be interested in playing Easter week? And I said, yeah, let me send you a tape. He said, no, I don't need a tape. Anything I know you put together would be good. So as long as you can do it, fine. So we played the Easter week, and they kept us for 3 Easters, I believe, 3 spring break Easters. They had us there.
Wow,
it was great.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I found this guy. His name is Westerfield. I'm going to have to look up the name, his name here. But I wanted you to just talk to the audience about Redbone in the sense that what was it about? I mean, I talk so much about sort of the roots of jazz. The African. Jazz is a combination of African rhythms and European harmonies, and this sort of fusion, and then you have all this. People would say, Phil Woods told me in our interview, he's like, the first fusion music was Chano Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie back in the 40s, right? Mm-hmm. It was Afro-Cuban congas with the jazz. Could you just talk about the indigenous, as close to the source as Redbone wanted to get, as it related to Native American music, and blending it with other American styles of music?
Well, I'm always a big fan of theirs from the first album on. And as a matter of fact, my cousin Tony was a rhythm guitar player, and I always loved their music. And so it was when I auditioned for them and played. They liked the way I played because I also could add a Latin feel to whatever they did, which they understood. And so they liked that. And they liked the jazz part, too. So it actually answered everything that Lolly, the leader, was looking for and wanted. So I fit right in. It was great. I loved it.
I mean, I guess... can you talk about what kind of Native American traditional music was incorporated during not on the albums, not on the studio stuff, but in the live setting? Would there be homage paid to the Native people?
Oh, of course. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we would always open the show with Tony coming out in full Indian dress and he doing a dance, and it was just me and Tony, and he would do a Native American dance, and then we go into our show. But that was mainly the only homage we paid in live, other than some of the chanting that they did on some of the songs.
Your cousin has Native American blood. Or do you have Native American blood in you?
Yeah, my great grandmother was a Seneca Indian princess, and then so passing down, I'm 1/8 Seneca.
How close did you get to any kind of? Did you witness any kind of spiritual ceremonies or?
You know, well, one time we flew into Vancouver, and there was all these Indians who met us at the airport and invited us. And they started playing. As a matter of fact, I have it on tape somewhere.
Oh my
But they were beating all these drums and chanting and stuff, and they invited us to a powwow, and they served us buffalo burgers. And
That sounds fantastic, dude. I love it.
The runs.
I mean, you know, how much, you know, you could make an argument that Archie Shepp and Train and those guys and a lot of what was coming out of them at a certain period in their musical history was in fact anguished cries of their people being repressed.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Some people, in fact, when Trains, God forbid, if I was actually alive and doing journalism at that time, I would hope a lot of people called Train's modal music hate music. There'd be women in the crowd saying, make him stop, you know, and so how would you describe the plight of the Native Americans? It gets overlooked a lot in this society, and some of that is due to the dysfunction of the Native American the condition of Native American populations around the country. But at the same time, Redbone was the most sophisticated Native American fusion band. Even before you joined, was there a social consciousness statement that your cousin and the group wanted to make? How would they try to express and advocate for their people in the music?
Well, through the songs, like I remember one time they recorded a song called Alcatraz. Yeah, I forget what album it's on, but it's about Alcatraz Island and the takeover by the Indians of Alcatraz Island. And that was, they made statements through their songs and lyrics. Other than that, that's about it.
Can you talk about
really good friends with some of the AIM people? As a matter of fact, we did a concert once in Washington, and Russell Means came with a bunch of AIM members and the show. It was great.
Who came?
Russell Means.
Who is this? Who was that cat?
Russell Means?
Yes.
He was the head of the AIM movement.
And what movement?
American movement.
So, and what? I'm sorry. So he came to a show that you were with Redbone at that point.
Yeah, he was really good friends with Lolly, and so he brought all these people to one of our shows and came backstage with all of them. It was cool. It was very cool.
What's the story? But I never even got hip to this idea of the Native American overtake of Alcatraz. What can you break down how that went down?
Oh, that went down to back in the 70s, I think. But they just finally took over the whole island and the prison, and the government sent troops to finally get them off the island. So it was cool.
Well, let me ask you a question. Were they actually incarcerated, or did they just show up and take over the island?
No. The place was abandoned. It hadn't been used in God knows 30 years, and they just finally, as a form of protest, went and took over the prison and the island.
My God. And then I assume quickly thereafter the state, the local and national governments had that thing up and running again as a prison, right? I mean, you're telling me it was vacant, though. It was totally vacant.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And so Redbone at that time, where were you in 1970? What were you up to in 1970?
I'm sorry, something keeps beeping. Is that your phone?
No, it's probably your phone. I-
That's
what
anyway.
yeah,
I'm sorry. Repeat your question.
well, no, but I mean, when they cut that track, Alcatraz, in 1970, and I'm trying to
Right.
figure out what you were up to at that time.
I was just working locally and in the clubs with my bands.
Bim Bam or which band?
Back, Fatback.
Fatback. Now what was that iteration? What was that music like?
That was basically all R&B and funk. I had two horns, and it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 7-piece band.
So you always got into these larger ensembles. I mean, did you ever, you know, what was this outside of the jazz trio at the Beat Club? What was the smallest group that you did you play in a quartet, or was it always just sort of like you wanted to always have the incorporation of the melodies of the horns and
Yeah, well, my brothers had a big influence on me with the horns, so I always wanted horns in my bands if I could, have it, and that's where that all came from. So when I put Fatback together, we had two horns, and it was great. It was great. As a matter of fact,
yeah. Go ahead.
our lead singer was the lead singer from not lead singer. He was the lead singer, but he was also the drummer with a group called the Knickerbockers, who had a hit record called Lies. And when I formed Fatback, I hired him as the lead singer, Jimmy Walker.
Jimmy Walker. So your brothers, uh, did you? I'm always fascinated by this. The idea that like for so long, so many cats, just was via radio. So you'd hear somebody sing, and you might think they were black skinned, or and it
Right,
turns out they
right.
were white, and then so at first you had race music is what it was called, essentially black music, and then there was some kind of lawsuit that changed it to rhythm and blues, and
Right.
then when Elvis came along, when they found out he was white, they started to call it rock and roll.
Right. Right.
What is your understanding of where that term came from? Were you referring to music as rock music? Where did that term come from in your mind?
Rock and roll, the term.
Well,
Rock
like,
and
how did
roll.
it evolve into that term? There was no word for that. To me, cats have told me it
It
went
was originated by the disc jockey Alan Freed,
right.
and so he started calling everything rock and roll, and it caught on, and that's where it came from. But to me, it was all, I mean, rock and roll, R&B was all the same. So I don't know, I don't know why it's called rock and roll, but I guess it was exciting.
Did you guys have a chance to play? At a period of time in our cultural history, LSD was legal, and and so many of the bands, not necessarily your bands, but a lot of the bands that came out of the psychedelic West Coast scene, Northern California scene, they were self-taught, and they were playing on acid and tripping out a lot. George Clinton was tripping his ass off with Funkadelic, and I mean, I've interviewed all these cats, and I'm curious about the effects that psychedelics had on your bands and yourself in terms of expanding consciousness, mental consciousness, and sonic expansion as well.
Right, right. I never, believe it or not, I never got into any of those drugs. But a couple of guys in Fatback, actually all the guys in Fatback did, they would take acid and come out and play. And sometimes it was funny, but just go on and on.
But your what was that collective experience like? I mean, to me, like some of those bands, they had to play for their lives because that's all they had at that point. They were so out of their minds. They didn't even know if they were going to fall apart or not.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
that's true.
I mean, how did that elevate the music in some ways, in your mind?
In some ways it didn't, and in some ways it did. I mean, guys would drop and they'd play, and you go, God, this is terrible. And other guys would drop and just say, man, that's great. You played really inspired. You said, yeah, I dropped before I went to start playing. I said, okay.
What kind of bands were you? Were you in '74 when Redbone was clearly established? I mean, who would you wind up playing? Did Bill Graham put you on bills? Who were you playing with?
Supposedly he did. I wasn't in the band when he did, but yeah, supposedly he had booked them at Fillmore West.
Right, but I'm saying like when you were in the band, I mean, we played a live track coming in. What kinds of bands were you being? Because what was so invigorating as well with a lot of promoters, Bill Graham being the titular head of it all, was that these guys were unafraid to put on Malo, the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, and the Sons of Champlin all on the same bill. You had three completely different types of music. So who were you sharing bills with when you did join Redbone?
Oh, God. Jethro Tull, Tower Power, I forget, Larry Graham, groups like that.
Wow.
But when I was with and Jerry LaCroix's White Trash, we shared the bill with a lot of the English groups like Argent and Jethro Tull and Rod Stewart and Faces, groups like that.
This is fantastic. I'm so glad you brought that up. Let me read you this this quote from Rick Marotta. I don't know. Was he in White Trash with you at that time?
No.
You were the drummer. Did you know his last name was Gonzalez, Bobby Gonzalez?
Oh, Bobby Ramirez.
Bobby Ramirez. I want to read you this story about. Did you know Bobby?
Oh, sure.
Okay, I want to read you this story. I want to read you this story, and then you can riff. All right. I want to just read you this story. This is from the drummer Rick Marotta, who I think I guess maybe he came in after you did, or is that right?
Not that I know of.
He said we were doing some songs for the record White Trash, and Edgar Winter had written this song. He also had a drum part in mind. Here we go. I was in the White Trash band at that time. It was going back and forth between me and Bobby Ramirez. Bobby was the real drummer. Once they put that band together with Bobby Ramirez and Jerry LaCroix, LaCroix. How do you say it?
LaCroix, like C-R-A-W, Craw.
LaCroix and John Smith. Together I would play with Jerry and John. Sometimes Bobby would injure himself because he was such a monster of a player. He played really hard, and he'd go on injured reserve. He played so hard that he had a callus that was so big on his thumb that it cut the nerve off on his thumb, so he couldn't feel his thumb. He couldn't feel the drumstick. The callus got so big it pressed against the nerve, and he lost feeling in his thumb. He had surgery, and they cut the callus and took the nerve and moved it to the side, so when he grew the callus again, it wouldn't push against that particular nerve. I don't know how long I did on that particular tour, but it was Johnny and Edgar. We did a show in Long Island, and Bobby was standing on the side of the stage with a big cast on his thumb. The gig was just on fire. We were really crazy and exhausting. We were playing pretty hard, pretty loud, and we got off stage, and there was this encore. We did the first encore, and then we'd come out and do the second encore, and Bobby's going so crazy. I got to play. I said, okay, here. I give him the sticks, and he went out and played the shit out of it. And he walks off stage with a big smile on his face. The bandages on his fingers had come off, and there was blood all over his hand. All the stitches popped out. He had to go back to the doctor, but he was so much a lover of music, he couldn't control himself.
Oh, of course. I believe it.
Well, why don't you tell me, where did you fit into the whole paradigm with White Trash?
Say it again. I didn't hear.
Well, I'm just saying, so that was, when did you first join how did you connect with Edgar Winter and those and White Trash?
They had Edgar had left because he had a hit with Frankenstein, so he gave the group to Jerry the name to Jerry LaCroix, and so it was Jerry LaCroix and White Trash, and they were thinking about adding a second drummer. So they were playing at the Whiskey, and they asked me to audition. So I said okay, and so there was two of us, and we flipped a coin, and the other guy played the first set, and I played the second set. Well, the first guy was Ronnie Tutt, Elvis's drummer.
No way.
Yeah.
I've done 2 interviews. Ronnie Tutt was. Hold on, you both were at the Whiskey.
He auditioned on the first show.
Okay, so I want to be clear about this though. What year is this, by the way?
Oh, maybe 1970. 1970.
Oh my God! Ronnie Tutt was dude. Ronnie Tutt was like, oh my God! I cannot believe that both of you showed up. So you flipped a coin. He came and played.
He won.
Okay, he came the first set. Did you even have a chance to like have a cassette of the tunes? Did you know the tunes at all, or you just?
Well, I've been listening to the records.
Right.
But that's other than that, that's about it.
So what came of that second set?
So I got up, and there was 2 drum sessions. Bobby was playing, and we started playing. And as the songs were playing, we started laughing at each other because we would start to do fills in the exact same spot, and not only in the exact same spot, almost the same lick. And we just were cracking each other up because we played so similar. What a great guy! What a great guy! So anyway,
hold on a second. I want to be clear. You're telling me that John Winter had double drums in his band, and that Tut played the first set with Bobby, and then you played the second set.
No, not Johnny.
Edgar Winter had double drums in that band.
Well, no. No. Edgar had already left the group and was touring behind Frankenstein.
Oh, Jerry LaCroix.
Jerry LaCroix took over the group, and they wanted to add a second drummer. And that's when they held the audition. Now, my brother was the guitar player for them, and my old bass player for Fatback was their bass player at the time. So they asked me to come in and audition, and that's what I did.
But what I'm saying, like that night though, in that new iteration, Jerry had 2 drummers going on. So Tut was playing double drums with Bobby, and then you were.
Right.
How do you work within the double drum component? Because to me, that can sound like garbage cans rolling down a flight of stairs if it's bad. But was it really? I know you guys were getting off because you were playing the same fills and stuff. But at the end of the day, what makes the double drums work well?
Well, you got to be equals first of all, and then you sit down and just discuss who's going to play what and where, and then that's how it works.
So how did you? You never went in the studio with Jerry's group, did you? With the White Trash band.
At Ike Turner's studio in Bolick Sound.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you dropped out there. What you did go? Or you cut an album with Jerry?
No. That my brother and my old bass player did with Jerry at the Ike Turner studio.
Wow. And so that night after the gig, it was they said, "Hey, you got the gig?"
No. What happened is that he said, "Man, this guy Bobby was telling the guys, hey, I really like the way this guy plays."
Right.
Well, they went on tour to promote the LaCroix album. And when they were in Chicago, that's when Bobby got killed. And so I called and I said, hey, I'll finish the tour out, guys, if you want. And my brother called me back and he said, no, they decided to just come home. and deal with this. And I said, okay. So when they got back, a couple of weeks later, they called me up and they said, would you be interested in auditioning? So I said, sure. So I went up and auditioned with him. And actually, I played on Bobby's drum set. And he played so fucking hard. There was dents in his heads, and all his drum heads. And he was using the thickest drum head made at the time. And I couldn't even play his drums. They were so hard to play because of the drum heads. They were so thick.
Dude, Bobby Rodriguez's soul is all over the Jake Feinberg show. I mean, just the story of Murata talking about him busting that callus open and being happy as a clam. You're talking about not even being able to play his drum kit because there was so many dents in it. But when you when you went back, when you started the tour with them, did you have was it just you on single drums or did you have double drums?
I used my own drums and it was just me.
It was just you. You know, what is the most what is an honest assessment in your mind of the...
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What is what?
Just, you know, we've been cooking here for an hour and I'm having a ball with you. I just wanted to ask you about what you think, how the significance of music has changed in our culture.
How do I think music has changed?
The significance of music. How has the significance of music...
Yeah, your phone is breaking up.
Okay, so how has the significance of music changed in our culture?
Significant. Ooh. You know, I think YouTube had a lot to do with it because it's like I was telling my friend, another drummer, I said, man, can you imagine if we had YouTube growing up, what we could be? And I think that had a big influence. Not to mention all the good drummers that are around today that people have learned and can learn from. Like my favorite drummer today is Steve Gadd. I think he's incredible.
I mean, he just everybody. I mean, Al Di Meola said Steve Gadd's drum playing inspired his guitar playing. That's how badass Steve Gadd is. So, what kind of gigs are you? Are you playing with Garland at all? I'd love to come see you guys and do a. I'm going to come to Vegas. That's where you live in. Are you?
Breaking it bad. I'm not playing ever since my stroke. I don't play or perform at all.
You don't play or perform at all. Well, anyway, Butch, I'm going to get you a copy of this interview later today, and I can't thank you enough. I would love to connect with your brother at some point too and do an interview with him.
Cool. Well, and if you can send me an address, I'll send you a couple CD copies of Fatback and Bim Bam. You could listen to.
Send that stuff over immediately, especially the stuff when you guys were tripping your faces off.
Just email me your. Do you have Facebook?
Yeah, no, I friended you. You got to friend me. I sent you a friend request. It's Jake D. Feinberg.
I'm on Yahoo, but I rarely check it. I'm on Facebook every day. Is why.
Well, no. I'm saying I sent you a friend request on Facebook. It's Jake D. So just confirm the request because I'm going to be putting up excerpts of this interview all day.
Okay.
All right. And, yeah, much love to you, Butch. It was great to connect, and much love to Dave Garland, too. Take care. Butch Rillera, legendary drummer with Dave Garland on the surf circuit, with the Righteous Brothers, with Jerry LaCroix, and White Trash. We've got a lot more in store this week. It's kind of unpredictable, but we will be back. This is the Jake Feinberg Show.